Class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we'll be discussing the game between the Sharks and the Panthers, in which the Sharks have lost 5-1. Now 0-4, or I guess 0-3-1 in the month of December, as it's looking a lot more similar to the Sharks that we saw in October than they are to the Sharks that we saw this past month in November, where they had one of the best records in the league during that 30-day span. Now, this game started off once again poorly for the Sharks. 3 straight games where they give up the first goal within just the first few minutes. Against the Hurricanes, it was the first minute. Against the Lightning, it was about 2-3 minutes in. And against the Panthers, just a few minutes in as well. Keith Yandle made it 1-0. Barkov would eventually make it 2-0. But the Sharks would get back one goal to cut the lead in half. That would be a Kevin Labanc power play goal for what seems like the first time in a million years. And so even though the Sharks were trailing after one period, and they have a terrible record when trailing after one period, their one win this season in this scenario did come just about last week against the Coyotes. So there was hope, but in the second period, the only goal scorer would be Mike Matheson to make it 3-1 Panthers. And so even though the Sharks came out pretty strong to start the third, and they actually had a few seconds of 5-on-3 time, they couldn't get another goal past Bobrovsky, who was very good tonight. And it would be Connolly making it 4-1 Panthers, and eventually Vetrano with the empty net. Now, the first thing to talk about would be Martin Jones. As I had said in my previous review, this was a bit of a coin flip to see which goaltender would start tonight, whether it was going to be Jones, whether it was going to be Dell. I don't know if Dell would have been a better option here tonight, but Jones was not very good at all. If you say that Yandle's shot, which I think it did, but I'm not 100% sure. If you say that shot deflects off of Melker Karlsson, then I guess you can't really blame Jones for the first and second goal. The fourth one wasn't great, although Connolly makes a very nice play. But you have to take a look at this Matheson one, because this was definitely something else. I mean, of course, this was certainly Jones's fault. I mean, a shot from this far out, even through traffic, where this shot ends up going, you need to make this save 100% of the times. But you have to feel a bit for Martin Jones in this situation, because this is just very unlucky, because it's not as though Jones doesn't drop to the butterfly position fast enough, as he actually does drop down to the ice as this puck is coming in. But the thing is that when Jones' pads hit the ice, because, you know, how physics work, they hit the ice and they have slight give to them, so they slightly bounce off the ice, and it doesn't seem like normally a big deal for any goaltender, but it's just so unlucky that in the exact moment, the quarter second maybe that these pads were off the ice, just ever so slightly, the puck manages to sneak its way through. So again, you need Jones to make this save. You obviously need him to cover the ice below him, because as I've pointed out in the past, when a shot is coming from the point through traffic, the best you can do as a goaltender is try to make yourself big in the net and just hope it sort of just hits you or one of your players in front, and most of the time it will. But in a situation like this, it doesn't hit any players, but it's coming right along the ice basically. It's unlucky, but you need Jones to make the save, certainly. Next, I'll talk about the Sharks penalty kill, and this has been one of the long-standing pillars for the Sharks this season, basically the only thing that has shown any sort of consistency. The even strength scoring has been all over the place. The defense has been all over the place. Of course, the goaltending has been extremely inconsistent. The power play has been mostly bad, but the penalty killing from game 1 basically, or maybe not game 1, but from the start of the season to game 30, which was the game against the Hurricanes, it has been spectacular, near tops in the league, over 91% for a very, very long time. In those 30 games, they only gave up 9 power play goals, and recall the Sharks take a ton of penalties, so that's in over about 100 attempts even. But in these past couple of games against the Lightning and the Panthers, the Sharks have given up 2 power play goals in each of them. Now, not to mention that Matheson's goal in this game, one that was technically not on the power play, came a few seconds after a power play expired, so it was close to 3 power play goals in this specific game. And yes, you can point out that, let's say, the goal by Yandle, and I guess the goal that was not a power play goal but was close to it by Matheson, would maybe one Jones could stop, again, if you don't think this one deflects off of Melker Karlsson for the Yandle goal. But a couple of them, on the Connolly one and then the Stamkos one on Dell the other night, those are ones that, yes, maybe your goaltender can handle the puck a bit more, but the Sharks defense just not really doing enough in front of the net. And for as much as Jones and Dell, I guess, have struggled at even strength this season, they have been stellar, like spectacular, really. Tops in the league, if not the top in the league when it comes to penalty kill save percentage. But that has taken a hit here in this past couple of games. So with the Sharks really sort of flailing around here with their even strength scoring having dried up, and I guess their power play scored tonight, but it not being that great, their defense having a few holes in it in these past couple of games, they really need the penalty kill to actually still stay strong. And right now it is falling off a bit bit. So hopefully the Sharks can just sort of look past at this as a sort of couple bumps in the road and get that penalty kill back on top. Next, I'll talk about a few lineup changes tonight as the Sharks tried to get something rolling offensively. Now, we can recall that prior to Tomas Hertl's injury, the Sharks were running with a certain set of their top lines. They go back sort of to that, where they put Marleau back on that third line with Sorensen Thornton. And then they had LeBanc up with Meyer and Hertl. Now, before Hertl's injury, it was Goodrow with Meyer and Hertl and LeBanc on that top line, but they put LeBanc on the second line instead, which I felt like was a bit weird. I know Marleau, Thornton, and Sorensen were quite good together prior to Hertl's injury, but the Sharks' best line really in the past couple of games, especially against the Hurricanes and even against the Capitals, was that third line of Sorensen, Thornton, LeBanc. So I thought it was a bit interesting to break them up. I know the Sharks don't really have too many options considering how thin they are at forward. But maybe putting Goodrow back with Meyer and Hertl, because that was a pretty successful line prior to Hertl's injury, would have likely been the play, and then putting Marleau back on the first line, or even then just completely reverting, having LeBanc on the first line, Marleau on the third line, I think would have been a better option. And the second thing to talk about, of course, would be Radim Shemek, who was injured for this game. It was announced that he's going to be out a couple of weeks. He's already back in San Jose, so he's gone from the road trip. He needs to get something surgically repaired in relation to his previous injury that kept him out a very, very long time. So, as we know, the Sharks not with the best record when they are without Radim Shemek in the lineup, and this game, I guess, was evidence to that. Finally, I'll talk about Timo Meier, probably the most inconsistent and disappointing top six forward for the Sharks this season. You know, Kane has certainly had a very good start to the season, even if he hasn't been that great as of late. Tomas Hertl was very, very good prior to his injury. Couture has been mostly consistent through this season thus far, but Timo Meier has really just had a couple of moments where I've said, oh, maybe he'll build off of this, but it just really hasn't panned out to anything. And again, I'm saying that here tonight. I thought his third period was actually pretty decent offensively. He got shifts back with the top line with Logan Couture, but again, there just really hasn't been enough here from Timo Meier. And with the Sharks struggling at even strength, as I said, they are thin at forward. They really need a lot more from number 28. But that will do it for this review. The Sharks will be back in action on Tuesday. They will be playing the final game of this 4-game road trip, which they are now 0-2-1 on. They'll be against the Nashville Predators. This is a team that the Sharks lost 5-2 to early on in the season, but then they managed to defeat them in a 7-round shootout just a few weeks ago, and we'll see how they can look in their final matchup against this team coming up. Class dismissed.